Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new and very special episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today, we are reviewing every single studio album from American thrash metal icons Testament. Their debut album, The Legacy, recently turned 35 years old, so I figured, fuck it, let's take advantage of this opportunity. Let's talk about the absolutely stellar discography of an absolutely stellar band. And I truly mean that. I love Testament. There aren't really any massive duds in their discography as far as I'm concerned. Like, I don't think there's any album of theirs off the top of my head that I'm going to be giving like anything lower than like maybe a 2.5 out of 5, maybe even a 3 out of 5. I don't know. Like everything they've done is good. Even their bad albums are like still well made and well performed. Like there's nothing in Testament's discography on par with something like Saint Anger or Illa Divinum Insanus or Super Collider or anything like that. First off, though, a couple of ground rules as per the norm with every video of this type on the Metal Meltdown. I am only talking about studio albums. I'm not interested in demos, EPs, live albums, or compilations. We won't even be talking about First Strike Still Deadly, seeing as how it is technically kind of a compilation. Like it's a re-recording of a bunch of classic tunes. Testament likes to count it as a full-length studio album. It really isn't. It's a glorified compilation. Let's not pretend otherwise. This is also not a ranked or numbered list. This is not a tier list. I will be talking about each album in order of release and assigning each a score out of 5. Now, with all that out of the way, let's officially get started. Let's review every single studio album from Testament, and let's start with the aforementioned Legacy, released April 21st, 1987 via Atlantic and Megaforce Records. Happy belated 35th birthday to a genuine thrash classic. The Legacy may indeed be 35 years old, but it still rages like a drunk fucking teenager, man. This thing still goes pretty fucking hard. It's loaded with gnarly riffs, great choruses. It's vintage American thrash metal with a little bit more technicality and precision with Eric Peterson and Alex Skolnick. Duh. But vintage American thrash metal nonetheless. It's everything you want from a classic 80s record. It's got the reverb, it's got the crunchy riffs, it's got those shouted vocals, it's big, it's loud, it's angry. It's by no means a perfect record. There are some bits and pieces that don't quite mesh super well with other bits and pieces. It is arguably a bit messy and incohesive, but hey, you know, this album was recorded by a bunch of fucking drunk metalheads, so like, you get what you get sometimes, and you just deal with it. You roll with the punches. And it's easy to roll with these punches because despite everything, the songs are just really, really, really fucking good. First Strike is Still Deadly, is still a deadly cut. Over the Wall, great album opener. Alone in the Dark, a great number. It is kind of interesting in retrospect because I realize now, I didn't so much as a kid the first time I heard this, but Steve Souza, you know, he wrote a lot of the material on this album, but never got to really perform any of this on a studio album, with Testament being replaced by Chuck Billy while Steve went off to join Exodus. I think Chuck does a pretty good job considering none of this is really his own material, but I think that is also part of why this is a little messy and incohesive for my liking. I'm not really hearing Chuck Billy. I'm hearing Chuck Billy sing somebody else's stuff. But I mean, hey, that's not really a huge deal. Steve Souza, obviously a talented songwriter and frontman in his own right. There's a reason why, his records with Exodus are as influential and as important to so many as they are. The Legacy itself, just looking at it as a standalone record, I mean, this is a solid 3.5 out of 5, a really fucking good record. Maybe not like one of the best thrash records of the 80s, but like, it's got everything you want from like the best thrash records of the 80s. Like it's not too far off from like what other bands were putting out in their early years. And it just hits the mark, knocks it out of the park. It's fun. It's angry. It's loud. It's all the things that I said that it is. So yeah, Yeah, happy birthday. Next up, The New Order, released May 5th, 1988 via Atlantic and Megaforce Records. Once again, the band's sophomore studio album, and in my opinion, one of their best. Holy shit. This album is an improvement on the legacy in every single way. It's bigger, it's punchier, it's more dynamic, it's more technical, it's more aggressive. The songs are a lot more memorable as a result, a lot more impactful. And the album as a whole, I think, flows better. It sounds better. This is one of the best thrash metal records of the 1980s. And 34 years later, maybe one of the best thrash records ever. I mean, as far as old school thrash records are concerned, at the very least, this would be in my top 10. Those first four songs in particular are just fucking killer. Like Eerie Inhabitants, The New Order, Trial by Fire, Into the Pit. Banger after certified motherfucking banger. Testament could show up in Toronto tomorrow, just play these four songs and then leave, and I'd be fine with that. Like, more than satisfied. Everyone is clearly just a lot more confident on this record. There's more instrumental stuff. There's an Aerosmith cover that's way heavier than it has the fucking right to be. It's just all around a much better record. Like, honestly, I'm feeling a 4.5 out of 5 on this. I love this record. I loved it the first time I fucking heard it. I love it now. Just bangers for fucking days. Killer riffs, killer solos. Chuck Billy sounds fucking great. Everyone sounds fucking great. Everyone, you know, they just sound great. They sound incredible, actually, because it's a 4.5 out of 5. I got nothing more to say. It's just a fucking awesome record. Check it out if you somehow haven't already, you fucking idiot. Next up, we have Practice What You Preach, released August 4th, 1989 via Atlantic and Megaforce Records. And yeah, certified fucking banger, just like The New Order. In many ways, this record is an advancement on what The New Order kind of set in place. It's bigger, it's punchier, it's more dynamic, it's more technical. There's more outside influence coming in, both musically and lyrically. But despite all that, this is still very much a full-on thrash record, and that is absolutely where it succeeds. Tons of great tracks on here. Perilous Nation and the title track are both classics as far as I'm concerned. Greenhouse Effect is a great fucking cut. I really like the ballad. I mean, it's just filled with so much passionate, beautiful fucking guitar work. I really like on this record, too, things are a little bit more politically motivated. Like, you know, Chuck Billy, he wants to spread his wings a little bit lyrically and put a little bit of his own essence and his own ideas and his own beliefs into Testament's music, and it works really well with how righteous and provocative the music inherently is. And it's all about stuff that matters. Like, this doesn't suddenly turn into a fucking political campaign ad. Don't worry. Like, Sins of Omission is about suicide prevention and mental illness. And the aforementioned Greenhouse Effect is about what Chuck Billy describes as an environmental holocaust. You didn't really get a lot of metal bands or really a lot of people in general talking about the environment and environmental issues in the late 80s and early 90s. So when you think about it, this track is way ahead of its fucking time. Honestly, another 4.5 out of 5 for me. I love this record. I like New Order a little bit more. The songs are just a little bit more memorable and a little bit more fun. But damn, this record is fucking fantastic too. Like, it's just ever so slightly below the New Order. Next up, we have Souls of Black, released October 9th, 1990 via Atlantic and Megaforce Records once again. A notable step down in quality and production, in my opinion, in comparison to The New Order and Practice What You Preach. But, you know, all things considered, I still think there are enough tasty, meaty, nutritious thrash metal jams in here that should satisfy, that should keep you happy and full. Like Malpractice, One Man's Fate, the album's title track, Souls of Black, which is one of the few cuts from this album that they still perform live. So clearly, at least everyone's in agreement on that cut. This record expands on a lot of the more technical and progressive influences previously introduced on Practice What You Preach, which I like as well. Where this record loses me ultimately is in the production. Like, I do not at all like the way this record sounds and feels. It's got this weirdly dingy, echoey, cavernous feel and vibe that I think robs the riffs and a lot of the percussion of their inherent muscle and power. I mean, it's raw, and I know a lot of y'all like music just by default if it's raw, but there's raw good and there's raw bad. And this is leaning closer towards raw bad, in my personal opinion. Still, though, I think I would give this like a reasonably enthusiastic 3 out of 5. Like, I still enjoyed listening to a lot of the songs on this record. There's still a lot of talent, duh. There's still a lot of like really great lyrics and a lot of really great hooks and solos, duh. Not my favorite Testament record, but not my least favorite either. Next up, we have The Ritual, released May 15th, 1992 via Atlantic Records. No more Megaforce. And a lot of interesting stuff happened in between the release of this and Souls of Black. 2 things happened. 1, Metallica released the Black Album, and Pantera released Cowboys from Hell. So the metal climate had changed pretty rapidly, and a lot of the old guard of thrash was changing to keep up. So you were either becoming a more straightforward hard rock heavy metal band in the vein of the Black Album, in the vein of what Metallica were becoming, or you were going into more of a darker groove metal, alt metal kind of direction in the vein of Cowboys from Hell and what Pantera were doing and would continue to do through the 90s. And Testament kind of leans towards the former. Like, this is definitely a more straightforward kind of heavy metal record, but you're not really getting the straightforward songwriting that I would expect of the Black Album for the most part. I mean, there is a power ballad, which we'll get to. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. Like, this is definitely their equivalent to the Black Album in the grand scheme of things. But at the same time, this has more in common with Judas Priest than it does Testament. Like, this kind of has this old school heavy metal firepower to it. Like, there's a lot of twin guitar leads. There's still a little bit of a thrashy momentum to a lot of this material on here, especially on cuts like Agony. It's loud. It's very dynamic and very punchy. Like, arguably more so than some of the 80s Testament stuff. Like, the production is quite clear and crispy, actually. And yeah, I kind of like it. Like, there's a lot of good material on here. That opening cut, Electric Crown in particular, that's a fucking awesome track. That's a fucking great track. Same goes for As the Seasons Gray, the aforementioned Agony, Return to Serenity, the album's bona fide power ballad. Honestly, it's pretty good. Yeah, I did not expect to like this as much as I had. It's been a long time since I listened to The Ritual, and I was kind of turned off by people being like, oh, it's basically their version of the Black Album, even though I liked the Black Album. I was worried that it was going to be really derivative and run-of-the-mill, but it's not. It's well-made. It's well-produced. I would still argue this is closer to Testament wanting to do like a full-on Judas Priest or a Saxon-style heavy metal record while still retaining a little bit of their thrash metal essence and soul. So yeah, maybe if you approach it like that instead of Testament's Black Album, maybe you'll end up enjoying this record more. I don't know. Yeah, give it a shot. I liked it. 3.5 out of 5. I think it's actually pretty good. Next up, we have Low, released September 30th, 1994 via Atlantic Records and Burnt Offerings Incorporated. And I'm not a fan. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. Yeah. Remember earlier when I said that at some point in the 90s, every metal band was either trying to do the Black Album or trying to do Cowboys from Hell? Every fucking thrash band was trying to go in one of these two directions. Well, turns out Testament at a certain point in the 90s tried to do both. They did the former. They went into more straightforward heavy metal territory with The Ritual, and now they're doing like Pantera-style groovy thrash metal with Low. And it's just not working for me. It feels so derivative and slightly disingenuous. I don't hate this record per se. I think there's still some really strong material, Trail of Tears being an amazing example. But the album as a whole just doesn't really hold up. Not in my opinion. It feels slightly dated. It's clunky. It just feels like Testament trying to be something that they're not. I can still get down with the title track, Hail Mary, Dog-Faced Gods, the aforementioned Trail of Tears. Like, this is all some super aggressive, provocative shit. I love that. But yeah, as a whole, this is not an album I've returned to a lot over the years. It's not something I really enjoyed much re-listening, aside from some of the tracks I've mentioned. So I'm feeling a 2.5 out of 5. Yeah, it's okay. It's not my favorite record, but it's not my least favorite record from them either. Though that particular distinction, that particular title does belong to this next album, Demonic, released June 24th, 1997. I admire Testament wanting to go in more of a death metal direction with this record, and in theory, combining it with the groove metal vibe and sound of Low makes a lot of sense. But in execution, this record doesn't do a goddamn thing for me. It's just pure chest pounding caveman nonsense. It's, you know, it's brutal and it's aggressive, but songwriting wise, it's weak. It's unremarkable, thoroughly forgettable. This album sounds like, for a long time, what I thought death metal actually was. Just incoherent shouting, ham-fisted fucking riffs, and loud, messy percussion. There's not a lot of nuance to this. There's not really a lot of, like, memorable anything. Like, I don't remember a single hook on this record, a single lyric, a single guitar lick or solo or riff. It exists. That's the only thing this album really does for me. It exists. I'm not even really huge on Chuck Billy's guttural vocals. He's done them well on some subsequent records, which we will obviously eventually address. But yeah, the first attempt is not solid at all. It honestly sounds like this motherfucker just got a sore throat and he's just kind of yelling his way through it. Yeah, I remember earlier in this review when I said there wasn't a single album I was going to give lower than a 2.5 out of 5. I guess I was lying. I guess for a brief moment I forgot about Demonic, because this is a 1.5 out of 5 for me. I don't like this record. I actually think it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all. Next up, we have The Gathering, released June 8th, 1999 via Burnt Offerings Incorporated and Spitfire. And wow, what a fucking improvement. Holy fucking shit. It appears Testament learned a lot of lessons over the course of these last few records. They paid attention to what worked and what didn't work about the Ritual, Low, and Demonic. They paid attention to what fans responded to, what they didn't respond to, and they've kind of compiled everything onto The Gathering, the best bits and pieces of those records, while returning to their thrash metal roots and employing extremely talented people like Dave Lombardo and Steve DiGiorgio, making for, unironically, kind of a thrash metal fucking banger. Like, it's genuinely kind of an awesome record. It's hard to find really awesome thrash metal in the late 90s too, so this is kind of a big fucking deal. It's everything that I loved about records like Practice What You Preach and The New Order, but combined with the heavier influences from Demonic and Low, with great production, great performances. Duh. I mean, for God's sake, Steve DiGiorgio and Dave Lombardo, the best at their respective instruments, like without fucking question. Chuck sounds great. James Murphy plays guitar on the record, and this is where I really feel he kind of finds his place in Testament. It's just all around an awesome fucking record. Like, I jam fucking hard to tracks like DNR, Do Not Resuscitate, Eyes of Wrath, 3 Days in Darkness, Riding the Snake. That's an awesome fucking song. This is just a great record from start to finish. It should not at all be shocking what I'm going to give this thing 4 to 5. Fucking great. It's kind of interesting to listen to this again after all these years, because I realize this kind of lays the groundwork for everything Testament would continue to do for the next 20 years. Like, this thrashy, groovy, death metal fusion sound with this really crisp, thunderous production. This is exactly what Testament would continue to do on their modern output, on records like The Formation of Damnation and, you know, Titans of Creation, Brotherhood of the Snake, Dark Roots of Earth, all that shit. It's arguably, with that in mind, perhaps one of their most important records as well, because, you know, all those records, they all kick fucking ass. I'll happily explain how exactly they kick ass in just a moment, but I don't think I'm giving away too much right now by saying they kick ass. It's a well-documented fact that those records kick ass, and they kick ass because of the template laid down by The Gathering. So thank you, Gathering. Thank you for kicking ass and paving the way for other records to kick ass. Thank you. Bravo. Stand up, good sir. You deserve it. Next up, we have the Formation of Damnation, released April 29th, 2008, via Nuclear Blast Records. Holy shit, that is nearly a decade of time that has passed. Holy fucking shit. From what I understand, this album began production in the early 2000s. In fact, a follow-up to The Gathering was mentioned as far back as 2002, just shortly after the release of the First Strike Still Deadly compilation, not studio album. Don't care what anyone says. But for a multitude of reasons, it just kept getting delayed and delayed. There were a lot of injuries, you know, there were some health concerns behind the scenes. Alex Skolnick ended up rejoining the band. So yeah, things had to be adjusted. Things had to be postponed. It was worth the wait though, because this album fucking slaps. This is without question the tightest, the gnarliest, the angriest Testament have sounded in a while. It's just over the top, ballsy, fucking thrash metal nonsense. Definitely taps into the energies and the vibes and the aesthetic of their older records, again with the more progressive and technical flourishes of later records, and the heaviness expected on records like Low and The Gathering. It's wild. It's so well produced. This is Paul Bostap's only album with the band. Kind of a shame in retrospect, because he does a really great job on this record. This is some of his best percussion on any record, in my opinion. I mean, there's just so much good shit. More Than Meets the Eye, The Evil Has Landed, the album's title track, Formation of Damnation, The Persecuted Won't Forget, which has, without question, one of Testament's best riffs ever. I fucking challenge you not to go absolutely mental upon hearing that goddamn riff. Just fan-fucking-tastic. Another very strong 4 out of 5 for me. Just a fucking great record from start to finish. I have no issues, no complaints whatsoever. What a badass fucking record. What a badass fucking record. That's it. That's the summary. That's it in a nutshell. Next up, we have The Dark Roots of Earth, released July 27th, 2012 via Nuclear Blast Records. And this is actually the first Testament album I ever heard about. This album came out right around the time I was starting to really get into a lot of thrash and extreme music. I was familiar with Metallica, Slayer, The Big Four, and Exodus. But Testament I was just beginning to discover, and this album had just come out. And because of that, I really kind of loved this album right off the bat, because it was so much different from what I was hearing from Slayer, from Metallica at that time. It was way heavier than Death Magnetic and World Painted Blood. The songwriting was a lot more melodic, a lot more focused. And it was just bigger and better and scarier. And I think, 10 years later, this album really, really, really holds up. I will concede maybe I have a bit of a nostalgic attachment to this record for all of these reasons. But I think even just looking at it as a standalone record, it really fucking holds up. Much like The New Order, the first 4 songs on this record are just fucking awesome. Rise Up, Native Blood, Dark Roots of Earth, True American Hate, all just bona fide fucking bangers. You know what? Just take those first 4 songs from New Order, those first 4 songs from Dark Roots, combine them into one fucking concert. Testament can play that. Once again, I'm happy. I'm fine. They can leave town. I'm satisfied. These songs are all just so fucking catchy, so fucking heavy, so much incredible guitar work. Alex Skolnick and Eric Peterson, they work so well together. And from Formation of Damnation onwards, they just keep getting better and better and better. They get more and more technical. They just get better and better at their fucking craft. Obviously, those first 4 songs, as I've already said, are the fucking best, but I don't think there's a bad cut on this record whatsoever. Cold Embrace, A Day in the Death, Man Kills Mankind, Throne of Thorns, even some of the covers that are on the deluxe editions, like the Iron Maiden and the Queen and the Scorpion covers. Like those are actually pretty fucking good. I really like Testament's version of Animal Magnetism in particular, because it's like this weirdly ominous kind of like almost not quite Death Doom, but Testament's take on Death Doom. Like it's really slow and menacing and gnarly, and I kind of love it. Yeah, another strong 4 out of 5 for me. I mean, holy shit. Just what more can be said? It's a badass fucking record. Just badass fucking record. Spoiler alert, the next couple of records are also pretty badass. Especially the Brotherhood of the Snake, released October 28th, 2016 via Nuclear Blast Records. This isn't just Testament's best record of this modern era. It might be one of their best records altogether. Like, oh my fucking God. Riffs for fucking days, and all you can eat thrash metal guitar wankery and insanely catchy chorus fucking buffet. Like, I feel like I'm in Las Vegas again, having breakfast at Caesar's Palace. Like, just treats and delicious food for days. It's bigger, it's badder, it's more provocative, it's more dynamic and more punchy, as I keep saying, and with every single fucking Testament album. Some of the best guitar playing, some of the best bass work, some of the best percussion. I mean, by this point, Steve DiGiorgio has rejoined the band. Gene Hoglan's been playing with Testament for a couple of years. And, these guys work so fucking well together. Everyone's just firing on all fucking cylinders, kicking pure fucking ass. Oh God, I love this fucking record. I don't even know where to start. I just love this fucking record. The title track, Brotherhood of the Snake, is so awesome. One of Testament's best riffs, one of their best choruses. The Pale King is a fucking great cut as well. Stronghold, Blackjack, Centuries of Suffering, Neptune's Spear. The list goes on, folks. And the production is fucking fantastic. Like, everything has this beautiful metallic sheen to it, but everything is also super crunchy, super crispy, super meaty, like a bottomless KFC bucket. It's everything that Formation and Dark Roots of Earth did so well, times 50 fucking million. Like, this is just an awesome fucking record. Honestly, it might be kind of a perfect thrash record. I'm not going to go 5 out of 5 because I guess you could make the argument that it's kind of cookie cutter, all things considered. It's not like Testament are doing anything that new. And I try to save 5 out of 5 scores for like really mind-blowing, insane shit. But this does definitely get a very enthusiastic 4.5 out of 5. Like, as enthusiastic as I could be, and as high as a 4.5 out of 5 could be without crossing over into that 5 out of 5 territory. And let's wrap it up with Titans of Creation, released April 3rd, 2020 via Nuclear Blast Records once again. This record is interesting for a number of reasons. It's badass, duh, let's just get that out of the way. But it's also interesting because, I think this record kind of unintentionally tapped into like the mental anguish that we were all kind of feeling in April 2020 because, of this fun thing called COVID-19 that began ravaging the globe and began forcing people to stay inside and perhaps reevaluate certain aspects of their life. It didn't help either that Chuck Billy himself actually got COVID shortly before this album came out. As they were on tour with Exodus and Death Angel, if I'm not mistaken. Members of Exodus and Death Angel also got COVID, and they got it fucking bad, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I think there's parts of this album that are weirdly kind of poignant because of the timing. And I think weirdly do remain poignant because of that. But just looking at it as a standalone record, this is very much what Testament have been doing so well over the course of the past 15 years. And, it is arguably a little cookie cutter and derivative. I remember even saying at the time, I think I'm feeling a little tapped out. I think I'm looking for Testament to try something new again. But, all things considered, if you're going to do the same thing over and over again, you may as well do it with the utmost enthusiasm, skill, and fucking honesty. And that's what Testament does on this record. So, yeah, fuck it. Just reheat those leftovers over and over by all means. You got the best microwave in the world, Testament. It keeps working somehow, so fuck it. Who am I to complain? I mean, there's just so much great shit on here. Children of the Next Level, Dream Deceiver, Ishtar's Gate, False Prophet, World War III. Speaking of poignant material, it's just a really great record from start to finish. This would unfortunately end up being Gene Hoglan's last with Testament, but hey, good news. Dave Lombardo has rejoined the band, and I'm really pumped to see what he will bring to the table, and how he might expand on Testament sound from here going forward, because yeah, while I do like this record, I am also maybe still kind of waiting or hoping that Testament does something maybe just a little different. I'm going to give this album a very enthusiastic 3.5 out of 5. I think re-listening to it, it doesn't hold up as strongly as Dark Roots and Brotherhood of the Snake, but it is, it's still a really good record. It's still really well made. Lots of gnarly solos and fucking riffs. Chuck Billy sounds fucking awesome. He's like one of the only thrash metal vocalists that still sounds great after 35, 40 fucking years. So fucking good on him, man. Yeah, that's all I got to say. 3.5 out of 5. Maybe I don't love this as much as I loved other modern records from Testament, but it is still a very good fucking record. And that's it. Voila. Reviewing every Testament album. We did it. Hell yeah. Anna, what's your favorite Testament album?
I really like Dark Roots of Earth.
Dark Roots of Earth? That's like number 1 for you?
I really like it, yeah.
That is a solid fucking choice. Now it's your turn in the comments to tell me what's your favorite Testament album. Is it also Dark Roots of Earth? Is it The New Order? Is it Practice What You Preach? Is it fucking Demonic? I don't fucking know. Feel free to let me know in those comments. Tell me how you would rank the entire Testament discography, how you feel about Testament as a whole, what you want them to do on another album. Feel free to tell me I'm full of shit too if you like. Whatever fucking floats your boat, man. Press this button to subscribe so you can get updates on the Metal Meltdown immediately if you somehow aren't already. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.